Welcome to the 301 Podcast, the interview podcast for the hottest up-and-coming entrepreneurs, artists, and creators. Real, authentic, and inspiring. And here is your host, Marcus Engel. Let's get it started in 301.
Today in the 301 Podcast, a man of many talents. From creative, video editor, NFT artist, entrepreneur. With those adjectives, we can only talk about one person, and that person is Paul Snijder. Paul, welcome to the 301 Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
When I did my research about you and your personality, I read a lot of times the label The Creative.
Right.
Do you sometimes think that this label does not tell the whole story about you?
Honestly, I've had this over the last couple of years with my girlfriend that wants to explain to others what I do when people ask her. And she doesn't know what to say, but I also don't know what to say. Like, I usually say creative because it's like a broad spectrum, but at the same time, I'm not just a creative. I do a little bit more than that. But I start giving it a label. I'm just, I do stuff, I say to people. And sometimes it depends on the situation. Like if people want to hear that I've actually never used the word entrepreneur, but if people want to hear that I'm an entrepreneur, I'll say like I'm an entrepreneur, even though I don't think entrepreneur is the right fit.
Yeah.
But the creative director, that's the usual term, the thing, I guess.
Yeah. When I look at your career, I think there's much more to say than just creative. But I think we can dive into this a little bit later and see if we can find some different labels for today. If I look also like at your career, like you had like your bachelor degree. You started as a video editor.
Right.
When was the moment for you that you realized you wanted to do more than maybe just like the ordinary video editor job?
Honestly, very early on, like even before I started school, I like doing a lot. Like I like doing everything that I can that interests me at the time. And it just so happens that most of it is based creatively. So whether it's making videos to animating to actually drawing or art or even project managing or trying to set up like a shoot, directing, all of that, I just find interesting. So over the years, whenever I've got the opportunity to try something, I tried it. And that snowballed over the years to try different things to the point where I'm at this stage where I think some people know me as he probably knows something about this. So even if it's super new, I get a call like, hey, have you ever heard of like this? Or have you ever done this? And sometimes I haven't, but I say, yes. And then I just start Googling and I start finding out how difficult it can be. And I think this just constantly trying everything has made me very susceptible to doing everything. If I had to pick an exact moment, it would have been at my first job at Slam, the radio station, where I just had time to spend. Like I was a bit quicker with editing than the rest of the team, so I had a lot of spare time when working there, and I was just bored. And I knew Bram, Krikke at the time, so we just started making videos and experimenting. And I think having him as a sparring partner, creative sparring partner, just helped me to say like, yeah, why not just try this and try that. And I've continued even on beyond what I did with Bram. Then when I got home, I just tried something else. So I think it's been when I started working, when I got out of school, when I started freelancing, that's when this all developed. But there wasn't like an exact point when I made the pivot. It was just it gradually over time evolved, basically.
Was there like one moment where you realized that, oh, I think my career is like really taking off now? Is there like a specific moment that you looked into the mirror saying like, wow, this is going fast here?
No, there wasn't a specific point, but there was one thing when I won Best Talent at the Best Social Media Awards in 2021, I think. My dad called me and he said like, this is like an example of how you are. This is proof that what you've been doing has paid off, basically. Even though you don't realize that now, this is proof that whatever you've been doing, people recognize it, and that's the next level. So he was very proud of that, and because of him being proud, I was proud, and I feel like, oh, right, so that's basically a significant achievement for me that I should recognize as a great thing that happened to me. So yeah, I if I had to pinpoint an exact time, then that would be the time.
And you just mentioned also Bram Krikke yourself.
Right.
He's now one of the biggest content creators in the Netherlands, and I think you were there really like in the inception of his career, like when he really took off, and you that was also the first time you popped on my radar,
right?
Like the guy that was always like kind of around Bram Krikke, and there were also some videos online,
right?
Can you take us back maybe like in those kind of like beginning days? So like how does this work that you start to work together with him? Is that then just really like, hey, I'm like a creative guy, I can video edit, like should we take videos to the next level, or like how does this work?
So the funny thing is that I knew Bram when he started working at Slam, because he started working 1 month before I started working at Slam. And there were like, first off, I was assigned with him to make his show Bram in de Buurt, which was that in itself was a great show. Like it was all his idea, but I was assigned to film it with him. So we would go on city trips together in a car. I brought the camera, I filmed it, and he did the interviews on the street. He edited like all of it himself. So that's how I got acquainted to him. But we weren't really friends at that point. It was just a colleague that you travel with. But obviously, if you spend like weeks on end with someone in a car, you get to know them somehow. So we got on friendlier with each other. And then one day I made this, because I was bored. So I made this post of him, because obviously his face, like he is iconic with his mustache. So I made a short GIF on Photoshop where I dragged one of his eyebrows to his nose and it would transform into his mustache. Super stupid, but I just sent it to him like, hey, I made this. And he laughed and was like, good one. And then he asked me like, can I post this on my social media? At the time, he had like 10K followers, which was still a lot. But I mean, for him at the time, it was his very early career. So he posted it, and it didn't really do that well, but it was just fun content to make. And that basically snowballed into saying to each other, hey, can we make something else? Can we do something else? And then I believe he got around 50K followers because Bram in de Buurt was popping off, and I at that time became more friendly with him. And we proposed like, hey, can we make something special for your 50,000 milestone, like your milestone on Instagram? So we made this stupid dancing video, I think, and then very soon, like not even a month later, he hit 100K, and we made another video, another stupid video of him just doing random shit. And basically, we realized that making random videos was super fun. For me, it was like I was bored, so I had the time to do it. He was kind of bored because being a radio host doesn't mean you have to do a lot of prepping work. At least, I mean, a lot of radio people probably disagree, but he didn't do a lot of prepping work. I don't think he still does a lot of prepping work on the radio. But yeah, so he had a lot of time. I had a lot of time. I knew more about video content, even with like testing with 3D, testing with visual effects. So we just started making stuff that interests us, and that snowballed. We just kept on getting more views. He kept on growing on social media. Some videos were getting 1 million views, and we just kept on doing that.
I just read a post today. I think someone said while you are checking like your social media guidelines, and while you are reading your brand guideline and blah blah blah, the other creator has already like posted it, has already claimed the space, has already done the trend.
Right.
So kind of like don't be slow. So I want to talk a little bit more about like the brand perspective and content, because you've built branding campaigns or like social media campaigns and strategies for the biggest brands out there, JBL, G-Star, and you name it. What does it take nowadays for a brand to make it in the social media space?
So with a brand, it's slightly different because a brand has to find this golden zone. It has to work for the audience, but it also has to work for the brand. Because what we did with Bram was very one-sided. We had to just make content that we love to make, and then we found an audience that also shared that feeling. With a brand, you want to ultimately strive for conversion. So you also want to sell a product. You want to sell a service. You want to get your name known. You want to build your brand. So if you're a brand and you just make content that you think will fit an audience or that you just love as a brand, that's fine. But ultimately, if it's not delivering on anything, if it doesn't help your brand to the next level, it's gonna cost you. Like even a CEO might say like, hey, we've been doing all this and we've reached millions of people. Well, we haven't actually sold any products. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending money on this? So what I found out is that a brand is looking for that golden zone where it's equally interesting for an audience, but at the same time relevant for a product or service that they're trying to sell. And right in the middle is the key ingredient. Like, what can we make that works for the brand? So it's slightly different, but essentially it's just start. Just do something, see what works, because that golden zone isn't defined by anything. It has to be defined, and you define it by picking ingredients, seeing what works. Now the idea that they hire me or an agency like Go Spooky is because we have a lot of experience finding those golden zones. So you hire us and we already know kind of what's gonna work, and then we test it to further define that golden zone. But essentially everyone can do it, and the idea is just to start. So if you're a brand and you want to know where that golden zone is, how you can reach your audience and at the same time sell your product, try different things, see what works. Okay, this reaches a lot of people, this looks very good, but doesn't deliver or doesn't increase our sales. So they're very much on this side. This is very product focused, but it doesn't actually get views because no one cares. So that's very on this side. So you have to constantly try to find this golden zone. And I think that you can you can read guidelines, you can try to figure out algorithms, but essentially you just have to try and see what works, or come to me or come to Go Spooky and ask like, hey, do you have any general direction on what would work? And then we can consult or help you create the content.
Yeah. But why do you think then so many still fail to either get started or like then just follow trends and copy them miserably?
The fail to be original is really, honestly, like you can't really blame them for them, as in it's just a part of finding that golden zone. Because trying something that has someone else already did and was successful with is not a bad strategy. I mean, a lot of the times that we made content, we also inspired from other content, from trends. It was at the early stages when I worked on a lot of campaigns, it was mostly what we did is look at trends and copy those trends to see like, okay, can we play in on this trend on social media? So I don't think that's the problem, but on the other side, like not starting, that's very much a big problem. And I think it's I think that a lot of people are scared that they either don't understand it, and that's why they don't start, or they're afraid that they're not gonna get results, or they simply don't respect the whole the journey of learning what works. Basically, like they want to get results right out of the gate, and if you don't get results, they don't respect the process and they just stop or quit or don't even try because they don't expect results. And I think that consistency and just getting out there is such an important aspect, but it's also the most difficult. And I understand why, but it's I also don't really understand why. Because you don't have much to lose, honestly.
Yeah, and it's also the future, right? Like, I mean, there's no way around like not social media. Like, then okay, we can discuss what kind of form it is and like how the platform looks like and whatever.
Right.
But in the end, it's always going to be some sort of like community involvement, audience, target group, ICP, like whatever.
Yeah.
That you will reach in a certain.
Yeah. So that's like a whole different story on we're at this stage where you can't really afford to not do it. To me, that's an issue. That's starting to be, and it's becoming a greater issue, is that you have no choice but to go along with the rest. Because even though it works for a lot of brands and a lot of people, a lot of creators, it also means that we're all just in this this bubble and not trying to break through it. We're not trying something else to reach our audience. Where it previously, with more traditional social media or traditional marketing agencies, you try to reach an audience by going on the streets, doing creative billboard campaigns, stuff like that. And I feel like that is fading away because it works less and it's more expensive. But it's still like this, it is all like the same right now. And no one is trying anything new. And the ones that are trying anything new either do it as a stunt, as a PR campaign, so they can post it on LinkedIn and be happy for a week with all the likes that they're getting. But no one is essentially trying to figure out what is the new or the best way to start reaching an audience. So these platforms and the social media in general is getting this monopoly on marketing that I think is very toxic and is going to change over the coming 5, 6, 7 years.
I mean, you've seen many creators, many brands rise and go viral and collect a lot of followers, subscribers. If you would have to kind of give the ingredients to making it, like how much is talent, like how much is just consistency, how much is trends, how much is strategy, how much is camera, gear, all those kind of things?
There's just 2 things that you need. It is consistency and the ability to learn from the thing that you're doing. Actually 3, enjoying the thing that you make. So it's those 3. If you learn from the thing that you make and adapt to that, so you don't just keep doing the same thing, but you change over time, you learn how to read the path that you're taking. So learn to look further than just constantly doing. Being consistent and also enjoying the thing that you do, those 3 are like the main ingredients that you need. If you have that, it doesn't matter what camera it is, it doesn't matter who you're reaching, it doesn't matter what your audience is, nothing matters. Success will come to you because it's just how it works. It's social media is I don't know, it's I can't really explain it, but if you have those 3, I will guarantee you will be successful.
Yeah.
It might take very long, and it might take you a lot of adjustment and learning, and it might challenge whether you like it or not. But you will be successful eventually.
Nice. That's a good learning, I think, for all the content creators that are starting out right now.
Yeah.
Because I think there are so many mixed messages out there right now, like what you need. Most of the time is buying a course for a lot of money to go viral.
Crazy how I'm being annoyed by all of the posts saying, this is how you hack the algorithm. This is what you should do to get more attention. This is what you should do to be successful on social media. This is how you make money from your followers. It is crazy how stupid that is. But still, everyone does it, and everyone tries to find shortcuts and find the hacks. And there are shortcuts. I mean, experience is a shortcut in itself. Like if you know what works and you know how to edit and you know how camera works and you have camera setups, and obviously that's a shortcut to like your creative career. But it doesn't guarantee success. A good camera doesn't guarantee success, but it helps you maybe be a little more successful earlier. So yeah, don't listen to anything that anyone says on social media who think he figures it out. Don't even believe me, to be honest, but just try it.
Yeah.
And see if it works for yourself. Because yeah, that's the only way to truly find out what works for you, is to just go ahead and do it.
If you look at your own content, also like if your own platform, I think you have like around 10K follower as well. And I'm pretty sure that with your profile, with your audience, with the topics that you talk about, you could probably find a way to like get more into it and monetize it. Like, why did you never like, or was it ever like a thought of yours as well, like to go down the content creator road, or was it never?
I don't enjoy it. I don't like making content for myself or for an audience. Like that's maybe wrong. I like making content. I also like making content for an audience, but not on a consistent basis. I rather spend my time doing something else than being a creator and consistently creating content. So that the three ingredients that I just gave, like consistency, enjoyment, and learning, I only really like the learning part. The consistency part, I don't like it enough to be consistent. And that's also why I never really continued with it. It's also why my 10K is pretty much useless because, yes, I've gathered that audience, but I've did nothing to like consistently engage with them. So that audience to me is nothing more than a number that really doesn't have any influence on what I do. But that number, that has brought me a lot of business. So the reason why I went to strive for a lot of followers was very early on when I did everything with Bram, was simply to get myself known, to show to brands that I work with, like, hey, look at these numbers. I can verify that I understand this. But that's all I needed. So when I reached around 15K at one point, I thought, like, that's it for me. I don't need any more because this is enough for me to guarantee business deals, guarantee sponsorships, make some money of it, be legitimate in the eyes of brands and other creators, know a lot of creators. So for me, that was enough. That was my goal. And then I just started not doing anything with it anymore and slowly losing followers. And now I have about 10K left. And that's fine to me. Even if it goes to 0, that's fine.
And during your time working with Bram, working for Go Spooky, the whole NFT market exploded.
Right.
And of course, Paul couldn't miss the train, the trend train, and jumped on it.
Yeah.
And had like a really crazy idea. I mean, you talked a lot about that project in the past with Don Diablo.
Right.
But maybe you can explain one more time very quickly, like what you did and how you came up with this idea.
Yeah. So the NFT hype and honestly, the working with Don Diablo were two separate things when we started. Because when I first got in touch with Don Diablo, it was just when the whole Corona, the whole lockdown happened. And that was just pure from a thought of boredom and just trying new things. I just thought, like, hey, what is going to happen to the whole music industry as soon as like no one can go to shows, no one can go to festivals anymore, and people are going to try new things. One of them is digital concerts. And I wasn't even the first. There was a lot of others that were already making digital things. But it just annoyed me so much that this whole, like, people were accepting the fact that it was digital now, so a digital concert, but everyone was just doing the same thing, like creating a real life stage in a virtual space. And I thought, like, yeah, why would you do that? Why won't you just do something if you have the 3D capabilities to make a whole virtual studio? Why not make something that is not possible in real life? So I'm obsessed with everything space. I love space. I love the stars. I love everything that NASA does, or rocket launches, black holes. I just enjoy, like, learning about that. And I thought, like, what if we would do a digital concert in space? Now, who better to fit than Don Diablo, who is already kind of in that futuristic neon space niche style of his. So I contacted through someone else who I knew had the contact with Don Diablo. I asked her to send me through to him, and she did. And Don Diablo is someone who's also very enthusiastic about everything new. So he wants to try everything as well. And it wasn't I wasn't the first person that came to him and said, hey, I want to do a digital concert. But I guess to him, he just thought, like, why not? Why not try this with just one guy instead of a whole production team? Why not just do something that comes more from a passion and enthusiasm that it comes from than from money and incentive and credits, basically. So we called and we matched very much in what we wanted to do. And then I started working on it. And honestly, that was a year of work. And it was the most horrific year. I've never worked as hard and as much as I did then. Because honestly, it was a lot of work. And Don Diablo wanted it perfect. I wanted it to be perfect. But Don Diablo didn't do, he performed and he managed it, and he was a creative on the project, but I pretty much did everything myself with a very small team that I hired occasionally, freelancers that I needed on set or other stuff. But basically, and this was while I still had a 40-hour-a-week job at Go Spooky and still was working with Bram on creating stuff in the meanwhile, and then just do this project. So all of my free time went to that project. And then it was done, and that's when the whole NFT hype started. Or I think it was started a little bit earlier than that. But basically, when it was done, the project was done. That's also when the NFT was big. So Don called me one day and he said like, hey, I have something crazy, because we didn't really know what we were going to publish this on, whether it was going to be like a live stream on Amazon Prime or like even sell it to Netflix. I just didn't care at that point anymore. I was like, I'm done. Like, not in a bad way, but like in an exhausted way. Like I made it. I'm done. I don't really care where it's launching as long as I get to see it and I get to enjoy it. Or someone else gets to see it or enjoy it. And Don called me and he said like, hey, can we, this is a really weird idea, but should we sell it as NFT, like as a stunt, like only one person gets to buy it, one person gets to see it, and that's the whole gist of it. And at first I was like, oh man, I've worked a year on this and no one's going to see it. But then I thought like, this could also be a great opportunity for my name to be recognized other than just someone who created the show, someone who did something very new and out of the box. So I said yes, but I left everything to Don. I said, if you want to sell it, I don't know how much you want to sell it for, just do it and just let me know when it's done. And he managed to do it. He managed to sell it, obviously for a huge amount, 1.2 million in ETH, basically. And basically I said to him like, I don't really care about the money. Honestly, I didn't get much of the money, but that was fine to me. Even with a year working on it, I didn't lose any money on it, so that was great. But I didn't care about the money. What I did care about was that my name would be mentioned. I didn't want this to be Don's project and that no one knew who I was. So I said to him, like, if articles write about this, I want my name as the artist that made this work for you. And he promised, he delivered on that promise. So I don't think there are many articles where my name is not dropped. And my initial reaction was, okay, I need to establish myself as the person that understands NFTs, understands Web3, understands crypto. And this is basically my receipt to show them like, hey, I understand it. I mean, I obviously did a lot more with Web3. I experimented with selling my own stuff, helping projects, working as a consultant for a lot of companies, and then also backing that with the Don Diablo project. So I kind of made a little bit of a name for myself in the Web3 space at that time. And it was for me a very exciting journey to learn all about this new technology and dive more into that. And then eventually learn more about community building, which was very big in Web3. So yeah.
Super cool project. I think it's very impressive what you've built there. What I'm asking myself is that there are hundreds, thousands, millions of people that have 10,000s of ideas.
Right.
Where does it like this courage come from to say like, oh, I have an idea. And I think Don Diablo would really like this, you know, because it's so abstract. It's like, okay, probably you also know some like more local resident DJs that you say, hey, we can create this for you, it could be fun, and then maybe you sell it for 200 euro as an NFT, and it was also still a fun project.
Right.
But like, where does this courage or like this mindset come from to say like,
To
I
go
have
for
an
the
idea,
biggest. Yeah.
but this idea is only for him. I mean, I find this insane.
Right. Foolishness. Just I think, so there's two things. So one, I was very confident about my skills. I am still very confident about my skills. I know that what I do, I'm really good at it. I know that because of all of the things that I've done, all of the people that have recognized that, even though, and I'm very proud of the work that I've done myself. So I know what I'm worth. And I also know that it doesn't really matter who it's for. Like I didn't go to Don because I knew that my worth would be equal to his. Like, he is big, and I think that I deliver the quality that matches his like how big he is. But also because I'm not this at the same time, I'm not afraid to think that it would be good enough for me to make something for him. But that essentially that comes down to fulliness, just enough confidence to say like, what I make is probably good enough for someone like that. So that's why I reach out to him.
Yeah.
So that's
quite crazy, actually.
I guess it is, but
for other people outside, it's really crazy.
That's good to hear. I think that if you're really passionate about something and you're proud of the work that you do, then it doesn't matter who you're presenting that to. Like, there's no cap on who is like for who it's a right fit. If you always make the content that you feel like, again, if you're proud of the content that you make, it shouldn't matter who else is. Like, there's not a ladder that says like, okay, this content I make is only good for this amount of people, because everything above requires more skill, more passion, more whatever. I don't think you should think like that. I think that if you're proud of your work, then even the top of the top should be able to appreciate it. And if they don't, you just go down one more, or you just find someone else, or you don't do it for them. I don't know. It's a difficult aspect, and I've never really thought about it. So it's a great question.
And in your newest venture, how do you then make a deal? Because you don't have another party in the other end. I think so far you always had like another party, so it was either like a project, so it was like a money that you agreed, or recognition or something like this. Now you started really your own company, and nothing short but big, your own social media platform. How does this work then? Like, if you have to work for yourself, and we'll talk about what it is and everything, but I think it's a nice transition into it. Like, how do you then balance? What's the deal there?
What's the deal?
That you made with yourself?
So the deal doesn't necessarily mean between two parties. It can also mean between an action or a project and yourself. So in the case of Cloud Citadel, the platform that I'm building, to me, the deal was I try to make something, and I don't really try to make it for anyone else. The deal for me is that I get to spend time on this, then I get to learn from this, and I get to develop something that I'm proud of. That to me in itself was a deal. And the thing that I had to give was my time, my money, my effort, my sanity, to be honest. So that's a trade. And honestly, it has been I said it to you when I came in. That's what I realized over the couple of years. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure if I've made the right deal with myself. If all of the things that it's going to cost me to make this, if it's going to be returned to me. But I'm at this stage where I feel like I need to trust the process, and I need to just try and make this a deal for myself. And if there comes a day where I feel like to myself, like, you know what, this deal doesn't work for me anymore. It's costing me too much of my mental health. It's costing me too much money. I'm not enjoying this anymore. Then I will quit the project, and I will just let it go, and I'll be fine with letting it go. But at this moment, I feel like it is still the right deal for me. It's just, it's the biggest deal I've ever made. And it's costing me a lot more than I initially thought. But I'm also getting a lot more out of it than I ever thought. So again, I look at these deals and I start this journey, and the deal was a lot smaller when I first started, and now it's a very big thing with still nothing to show for, but a lot of experience, a lot of learnings, a lot of time, effort, a lot of new friendships, a lot of colleagues, a lot of new ideas. So yeah, I always say to myself, even when this whole project that I'm trying, even if it fails, the learnings, the experience, the growth that I've gotten from it still makes it a good deal.
Yeah.
And that's something that I need to keep considering. I need to keep reminding myself that even if it fails, it's still a good deal. So continue with it, and then you can see where it goes.
Yeah. And how do you then like validate like this idea? So for example, like how do you come up with an idea like, I'm gonna build the next social media platform? Right. Like this is again like such a, like, I think for
it's
many
almost
people,
stupid.
Yeah, and very like thought very big again. Like it's insane.
Yeah. So again, it's a bit of foolishness. It's a bit of being almost arrogant and being like, I can probably do that. It's being overly confident in what you can do, and at the same time, why not? I mean, I'm like, even from my parents, I've always been raised with two things that are most important to me. One is don't look at other people. Don't try to live the life that other people have, because you're not them, you're yourself. So only look at yourself, or help others, understand others, but don't try to be someone else. So if someone says to me, I can't do something, and I'm like, yeah, but you are not me. So who are you to say that I can't or can do something? Only I can think that I can do something or think that I can't do something. So that's one aspect of it where I think like, who am I to say that this is not going to be a success? Like I need to try first to understand whether the idea that I had is too big, and that the whole concept of just that mindset doesn't stop me from thinking ever like, hey, this is going to be too big. Like obviously I understand that it's a very big ask, but I still don't realize how big it is. And even if someone says to me like, hey, your project is too big, I don't really believe them, or like I understand them and I learn from them and I kind of believe it, but I would never like base my actions on what someone else thinks of my projects, because they don't understand what I'm doing. They don't understand how I think when I wake up, how I think when I go to bed. So why would I take advice from someone else that just has an opinion on what he sees or what she sees?
Yeah, and I think, also looking at other founders, like if someone would have said years ago, like Amazon, like building a worldwide marketplace, I don't know. People still probably prefer to go to the shop or something like this, or the social network, or like I don't know if that will really work. Then like we wouldn't have inventions, right? Like I mean that's the basis of
exactly.
Like someone with a dream and saying like basically I've done it. But to get the listeners also a little bit up to speed what you're building,
right.
we have to start I think there as well. What is Cloud Citadel, and where does it stand now from the beginning when you started like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, so Cloud Citadel is a social media platform that focuses on community building. So what I noticed over the last couple of years is that social media is not really social anymore. We're not talking to each other anymore. We're just consuming content. It's just media. We're consuming content. We're not really chatting with each other. And if we chat with each other, we have such a wide range of people that want to chat with each other that we all start to dislike each other because we're different. And we're living in, like, I think that the founder of Twitter once said that he wanted Twitter to be one big town square. But one big town square is not what we need. We don't have the mental capabilities, our brains aren't big enough to fully understand everyone on Earth. Like, there are people that live in such different environments and such different communities and different circumstances that we would never be able to truly understand them. So putting everyone together means that you're just going to have arguments, and you're just going to have people that don't understand each other try to convince each other. And that's what's happening for years on Twitter, is people arguing and people being mad at each other. So the whole internet culture has just become, let's just not talk to each other. Let's just watch content and keep scrolling and avoid trying to meet new people because they're probably different than me and they probably won't understand me. And that's why I think communities are such interesting, is because communities are just like little villages, communities in real life. It's people that have a strong, like one uniting thing that brings them together, and they understand, whether it's by force, like living in the desert, then you have to be forced as a community to understand the living conditions of being in a desert. But we're in a digital age where we have a choice to make a community and the choice to be part of a group that understands you better than the whole world does. So whether you like fishing, whether you like content creation, whether you like the stars like me, there are people that feel the same way, but nowhere on social media are they brought together. Are these communities actually coming together? And I want to build a platform where you don't only have the opportunity to come together with your community, but create a feeling of belonging, a feeling of immersiveness, belonging, where you feel like you belong, where you can meet new people, where you can understand peers in that community, where you can meet new friends. And I want to give them an opportunity to create a environment where they want to be, where they want to belong.
Two things, like one is like bring social back in social media is also like something I tell always my clients with the podcasting,
Right.
Because I think that's also like the thing that's missing a lot of times. And I think that probably right now for most listeners, it will be a little bit more complicated to understand also Cloud Citadel.
Right.
You can check it out on www.cloudcitadel.com.
Right.
And it's also like this kind of like whole immersive experience with like also visually, I think, very appealing.
Yeah.
And kind of like really like a world where you like dive into almost.
Right.
So it's also like a little bit like gamified way of looking at a social media platform.
Yeah.
Because I think for some people it will probably be a little bit difficult to say like, okay, but what is so different? What's the most difficult part for you now in this journey?
The most difficult part I've always thought was managing money, managing a team, getting the idea to be executed correctly. But over the last few months and even the last few weeks, I've just kept on realizing that the most difficult part is patience, is understanding how long it can take to do something, even as small as just launching the first version or getting a partnership set up or finding investors. Like, it takes so long. And I'm very used to doing a lot of stuff myself. And if I want to do something, I just do it immediately. And now I'm at this stage where I've planned ahead 2-3 years of the app's development already. Like, not just in concepts, but I'm also I've also learned UX design when I started this project because I couldn't afford to pay a UX designer. I can't develop, and that would take too long to learn. So I have developers, but I do all of the UX design myself. And I have like files with concepts and like how buttons should work that won't be developed until 3 years later, like in 3 years' time. So I'm at this stage where it's struggling, like it's almost being a mentally stressful for me to keep on having these ideas, but I need to wait for the other stuff to be done first, to answer the big question, will it work? Will an audience actually like this idea? So that question hasn't been answered yet. We're working towards that, but in my head, I'm already like 5 years ahead. And that's starting to be kind of difficult. It's really hard to let go at that point. I said this to you when I came in. It's like you've built this train and you ride this train, and it takes a lot of time to get that train up to speed. But when it's up to speed, you can't just stop it whenever you want to stop, whenever you feel like, okay, I am a bit exhausted from all the work, I want to take a break, go on vacation. It just keeps going. Like the train just keeps on running inside your head day and night. Whenever I go to bed, I have ideas about the project. Whenever I wake up, I have ideas about the project, and everything in between. I try to execute as much as possible. Try to be like try to do as much as I can in a day, but it ends up in me just sitting on my couch being like, I can't do anything else. Like I need to stop thinking about this because I've thought enough about it. So that's probably the most difficult part so far.
Yeah, and especially because I think you've been like working on a high pace since probably 2019, 2018.
Yeah.
Like you've always had like 3 or 4 different projects. I mean, we haven't talked about your time at Go Spooky. It's one of the biggest and fastest growing social media companies in the Netherlands.
Right.
Like, and I think that's also the difficulty that like when do you take breaks? Like how do you stay mentally sane? You said a little bit about like walking and trying to be more healthy, but do you think that's going to be enough for you to prevent something that you can already like maybe foresee a little bit?
Well, yeah, it's so that's the most difficult part that I'm struggling a bit with right now, is that in the past I've always known exactly what to do when I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, now I'm exhausted, and that was take a break, relax, get your mind off of different things, maybe even start a different project simply to get my mind off of the existing ones. Go outside, go for a walk, work out, stuff like that. It really helped me always go back to this neutral sanity level. But it's getting more difficult with a project like this because it's not finished and it's not even started yet. So it's I'm not so much worried about my time now, but I'm more worried when I'm like in 3 years, when I'm reaching 30. Will I still be able to have the strength to do something and to continue on with this project? I don't know. It's that's something that I need to figure out now. So even like I've never had the need for example, for therapy or for to talk to someone about this. But the more I'm thinking about it, it's like maybe I should start talking to someone who understands this more than me instead of trying to figure it out myself like I always do. So yeah, that's like it's kind of weird to say that your job is finding all of this out, but at this time, at this stage, that is exactly what my job is. It's not to manage my team, not to try to find investors, not to constantly have meetings and stuff. My job right now is to make sure that I'm mentally and physically capable to keep this up for another few years.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's kind of weird, actually.
Yeah, especially I think because you have the, like on the other side of the medal, like I think for you it would be very, very easy to work together with the biggest brands in the world, create social media content, explore Web3 with them,
right,
and earn a shit ton of money that you could live the most comfortable life with 27.
Yeah, but I decide not to do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I really don't care about living comfortably. I care about the things that I want to do. And it's like I said, it's almost a curse if you want to do something that's almost impossible and just give up my job at Go Spooky. Even the guys at Go Spooky, because I said to them when I left, I said like, hey, I want to do something. I want to do this. I want to build this. What do you think of it? They said like, well, Tim van der Wiel said this to me, and I still appreciate it very much to this day. Is he said, you should try to do this. You should really try it. They even gave me like a month when I still work there to try and figure this out. And then after a month, I should say like either I leave or I stay. And then even then they said like you can also build it with us, but it will probably be slower and whatever. And they also said like if you don't want to do this in 4 or 5 months, you feel like it's like you're done or you want to go back, fine. But he said to me like it doesn't matter whether I believe in your project, I believe in you as a person to just you'll succeed one way or another. So I don't know, it's and that's what I think of myself as well, is I just had this desire to try this, even leaving a job that paid very well, doing the stuff that I also love doing. Even like I could have been comfortable. I could have bought a house, but instead I've spent all of my money in this project and did something crazy. But I do kind of believe in myself that it will work out one way or another. Even if this project fails, I'll still land on my feet somehow. So I take comfort in my overconfidence and my own experience and just trying it.
I find this an interesting character trait of you, that you have on the one hand this like super confident, almost arrogant characteristic of saying like, yeah, I'm the best, like it's just how it is, it will work out. But on the other hand, you are so incredibly humble, because if you look at your LinkedIn, if you look at everything that you put out, anyone else would brag with their past projects like crazy. Like, I'm the guy behind Bram Krikke. I'm the person who sold the $1.2 million NFT.
Right.
And you cannot read anything about it except podcasts that talk about this.
Right.
Like, where does this humbleness come from?
Well, it comes again from what I've been taught as a kid, is that it doesn't matter like what other people think of me. I've never made it for them. So the fact that I don't brag with it comes from me. Simply, I don't have the desire to brag about it. I don't feel the need to brag about it. I don't gain anything from someone thinking that I'm good or that I'm the best. I don't gain anything from that. And yes, some ways I can be a bit arrogant, but I feel like I try to be very true to myself, because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to do this. Like, if I would also still worry about what other people think of me, I would have never been able to do all of this, because it would have driven me crazy. I would have tried too much to be the image of someone else. And it has already been a lot of a struggle to do this by myself and in my own head, let alone that I had to do it for someone else and live up to expectations of others. So yes, it is arrogance in a way, but it's also like a safety shield for myself to protect myself from not going crazy with what other people think of me. But yeah, maybe it also would make me a little bit blind at some point. Like, maybe I would live in my own bubble, my own world too much at some times, and not really understand what other people like. Obviously, what other people think has something to do. You learn from that as well. So I still need to figure out whether this strategy that I'm doing, like not caring too much about what other people think, for the good and the worse, whether that's the right strategy. But it is necessary for me to do this right now. So it's a bit of arrogance, but also a lot of self-protection in some way.
But also, just to clarify, a positive arrogance. Like, it's not, like you're super likable guy.
It's not an insult.
But I think it's very impressive. Like, if you look that you always strive for the best, you always like. I think it's also a very confident self-belief that like I think I can do this, and I think more people need this, because I think there are many more good people out there, but they're just too. Maybe hesitant or don't believe in themselves so much. So just to clarify, that's not like that's not an insult, but I really respectable arrogance that I mean. If you look a couple of years into the future, or maybe a couple of months, a couple of weeks, you can decide that. But if I just ask you what's next for Paul, what would you reply?
So obviously my platform would be working. It would all the strategy, all the planning, all the research that I've done will eventually lead up to something that makes sense. Like, when I first started with my project, I never had anyone that said like, okay, community building would be the future. And now 2 years later, I can already see that community building is starting to pick up more. Niche communities, niche creators are gaining way more attention, like bushcrafting, stuff that's like no one like really cares about now have these huge audiences. At the same time, we see platforms like Instagram incorporate the channel feature, so they can get so creators can get a direct more more direct access to their audience. I still think it's bullshit because you can't really chat, so it's still broadcasting like you do with content. But we also see Instagram that has like this community feature because they recognize that it's not just small chats, but also larger groups that chat with each other. Telegram and Discord have increased in popularity over the last few years. So I see a lot of developments in the industry that back up that what I'm talking about makes sense in some way. And what I hope to achieve in a few years is that keeps on accelerating, that the path that I chose to take is being verified by other companies trying to do the same, by even social media stealing ideas from me or other community building platforms. I hope to see that. And then with my own project, I hope to advance it, make it bigger, while still keeping my sanity, while still enjoying what I like to make. And then at some point, maybe sell the business or start something else or go more into a backseat. I would be the CEO, but I don't see myself as a CEO because I think that doesn't really make sense. But at some point, I would like someone else to be the CEO, and me for just be another creative in the creative team, and just think of ideas to advance the project. Someone else can run it. I really don't care too much about project management. I like to learn about it from right now, and I really appreciate how the legal structures of a holding and a BV and how it all works. But it's not my passion. Like someone else can do that. Someone can do the operational stuff, try to make money with it. That's not something that I want to do forever. So if I can build it big enough so that someone else can take that over, and me take the back seat and just think of creative stuff, that's what I hope to achieve in a couple of years.
Super cool.
Thanks.
Super nice plans, I think, and also super nice podcast. I think we had a really cool conversation. We could have probably talked for hours more about content creation, about the creator landscape, about tips, skills, tricks,
right,
of young entrepreneurs, of young content creators, what they should and shouldn't do. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation.
No worries.
Before we leave off, I always ask 3 final questions to every guest, and I'm also going to ask them to you. What are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Well, like I said, getting a grip on mental health and making sure that I don't get engulfed by the idea and all the concept, and avoiding that it's becoming too much for me. So that's the thing I'm learning right now. But I'm always learning. So yeah, I just try to keep my eyes out for everything that is something that I don't know, and try to learn from it one way or another.
What name would you give this chapter of your life?
I always used to think that working for a boss and the stuff that I did in the previous past, I was very good at it, and I was very happy with what I did, but it was always something to prepare me for a big project. And I feel like this is the big project that I was finally saying, okay, now I'm ready to do this because I have the skills, I have the knowledge, I'm confident enough about the idea, plus the idea just sticks with me. So I would be in the stage where I'm ready to do this. Like I've been made ready to try this venture. So for me, this is still like the beginning of my own journey to create this. But I mean, saying that is the beginning might not be the right answer. It's like chapter 2, maybe.
And if you could send an SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
If I can text everyone on Earth, right? I would say just try to do what makes you happy. It doesn't matter. Like like my first thought would be make it commercial, like give advice to someone as like or even, hey, download this app. But essentially, if I wanted to give everyone a message that they can remember, is that doing something that you love and trying to make that, like try perfecting it almost. That's the for me the key of life. So that's what I would. It's even on my arm. It literally says, "Living is perfecting that which you most love to do." That's what I would say to people.
Yeah, so that would be your message.
That would literally be my message.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Paul, thank you so much for coming on to the 301 podcast. It was really a pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to the 301 podcast again. We are back in 2 weeks with a new episode, and stay tuned.